Prince Andrew in no position to bequeath royal lodge to Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. Prince Andrew is in no position to bequeath royal lodge to Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, a royal commentator has exclusively told GB News. The Duke of York, 64, has a lease with the Crown Estate to stay in the house until 2078. However, Andrew is thought to be under increased pressure to pay his own costs for the upkeep and security of the Royal Lodge mansion in Windsor if he is to remain living there. Hello viewers, please remember to subscribe and click on the notifications bell icon, so you will be notified whenever we upload new cookies about the British royal family. The pressure to move Prince Andrew, who lives in the house with his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson, has been called the Siege of Royal Lodge. The father of two wanted to keep Royal Lodge as an inheritance home for his daughters, Princess Beatrice, 36, and Princess Eugenie, 34, GB News understands. But the former working royal, who stepped down from public duties in 2019, is under increased pressure from his brother King Charles to move into a smaller home with less expensive upkeep. Beatrice and Eugenie are thought to already have an inheritance home through their mother, the Duchess of York, who purchased a £4 million home in Mayfair in 2022. Gareth Russell, a royal commentator, spoke exclusively to GB News to explain why it's becoming increasingly unlikely for Royal Lodge to remain a future inheritance home for the Princesses of York. He said, "In theory, had everything gone the way Prince Andrew had hoped, there would have been possibly 2 inheritance homes for his daughters. But it's incredibly unlikely that that will be the fate for Royal Lodge. Maybe Mayfair is the alternative inheritance home given that Royal Lodge might not be Andrew's for the remainder of his life, much less something he's in any position to bequeath to his daughters." Andrew is thought to be reluctant to move out of Royal Lodge to the smaller property Frogmore Cottage, once used by the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. If the Duke moved out, it has been suggested that the historic Royal Lodge could be used as a commercial asset by the Crown Estate. Prince Andrew's lease on the property began in August 2003, the year following the death of its previous occupant, the Queen Mother. The Duke had approached the Crown Estate about acquiring the lease. Renting it to Prince Andrew as a paying tenant was seen by Queen Elizabeth II as financially preferable to using it as a grace and favour residence for the royal family. The drama surrounding Royal Lodge comes as a new Amazon Prime series is set to be released next week about Andrew's 2019 Newsnight interview. This is set to reignite questions about the Duke's links to sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. That said, Sarah Ferguson's Mayfair home does not solve the Prince Andrew problem. Sarah Ferguson's Mayfair home does not solve the Prince Andrew problem, according to a royal commentator who spoke exclusively to GB News. The Duchess of York's empty £4 million central London home has sparked questions about whether the Duke and Duchess could move from Royal Lodge amid a row with King Charles. As Andrew continues to grapple with the King over keeping his royal residence in Windsor, Fergie has been hauled into the row after neighbours claimed the house remains empty. The 2-bedroom Georgian house is located in Belgravia, a short distance from the homes of their 2 daughters, Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie. Gareth Russell, a royal commentator, spoke exclusively to GB News about whether Andrew and Sarah could realistically move into the Mayfair property amid the siege of Royal Lodge. He said, "Certainly, the Duchess of York could live safely and comfortably at the home, and her daughters and grandchildren could visit her there and stay there very regularly. However, the security for Prince Andrew will always be a factor. Moving someone like Prince Andrew, who is a brother of the monarch and also a very controversial public figure, into a private residence in the centre of one of the busiest cities in the world, is not something that can feasibly be undertaken unless there is a security presence there. Plus, that doesn't really solve the problem of how to keep Andrew safe without making him a burden to the taxpayer. There doesn't seem to me to be any way in which Prince Andrew can relocate into Mayfair or any part of London without substantial security that either he pays for himself, which he won't be able to afford for very long, or is paid for by the taxpayer. And whatever one thinks of Prince Andrew, certainly, he is an immensely controversial figure. Frequently in polls, he is the least popular member of the royal family by quite a distance. Russell argued that the only logical place to move the Duke of York is to Frogmore Cottage, the former UK base of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. He added, Prince Andrew is also the brother of the sovereign, and as a result, he will be a target of terrorist threats and kidnapping, which is why the safest thing for him to do is to go into Frogmore, because it's within the Windsor Security Court, which means that it is within an area of Crown land that is already protected by security. So if he goes to Frogmore, he will be safe at no extra cost, either to the monarchy or to the taxpayer. Sarah Ferguson gave a 3-word plea to this morning's Cat Deely after a fun night out in West London. The presenter has a circle of friends that takes in radio DJ, Edith Bowman and the Duchess of York. Speaking to the Sunday Times about a West London night out, she said, "It was so fun. I had to put Sarah Ferguson in the car. She was, like, don't leave me." The 47-year-old presents Fox's popular reality show So You Think You Can Dance, sidetracked, and is married to Northern Irish comic and The Late Late Show presenter Patrick Keelty. The Duchess of York stepped in to co-host This Morning last year, which Deely currently hosts alongside Ben Shepherd. During her co-hosting stint, Fergie offered relationship advice to callers. Both featured callers asked the Duchess's advice on making time for their partners. She responded, "The element of surprise that will bring the magic back to the relationship." Later, the Duchess noted that she'd done the same in a previous relationship, by leaving love notes in her partner's squash shoes. Fergie was married to Prince Andrew from 1986 to 1996 and they share 2 daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. Deely started her presenting career on MTV alongside Scottish radio and TV presenter Edith Bowman. The two have remained friends ever since. The pair are so close that at one point they were rumored to be in a romantic relationship. She told the Thanks a Million podcast, "We were really good mates, and we are really good mates still. And it was like, oh, Kat and Edith are in a lesbian relationship." Photographs of us kind of holding each other up, coming out of the Met Bar or whatever was because we were liked, it wasn't because we were like, licking each other's faces off. We are in love, but as friends kind of thing, it's so bizarre. Dee and her husband decided to make the UK their main home base again, partly out of a dislike of former President Donald Trump and partly due to their concerns over the ever-rising tide of gun violence. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like this video and drop comments, and most importantly don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything.